Right, let's make a start getting these guns assembled. There's a couple of points I want to make regarding the diagrams. Now these appear to be actual drawings of a real gun. And there's a few things on here that they're slightly different from the parts we've cut out. And there's a bit of a, not discrepancy, but some things that shown here a bit we haven't actually made. We'll discuss that as we go. Let's make a start now. First part we'll do is this central section here that joins the two halves of the carriage together. And then we'll do the carriage sides after that. So here's the first parts we'll put together. We've got the center saddle and the two chassis sides, or the gun carriage sides. And right off the bat, we have an issue with this part here. This is the front of the gun, that's the rear, it's the right hand side, this is the left hand side. Here's the saddle here, which sits at the front of this part here. So here's the two gear wheels, here's the center peak, which is there, two gear wheels, that's the front. The saddle sits at the front. Now, on the corresponding side, this has got a flat square section here, which is supposed to represent that. Because on the other side, which is the outside, the corresponding flat would be the front of the gun. That's not correct. And you can see on here, or hopefully you can see on here, we've got the outline of the saddle here. So this side's correct. And here's the outline of the saddle there. If we place these together, saddle at the front, saddle at the front, saddle at the back, which doesn't make sense. And here's a square flat section here, square flat section here at the back. This one's at the front. So this is printed the same as the right and left are printed the same. They should be opposite. So what I'm going to have to do is use this side as a reference point, which is the right side. We'll make up the saddle, we'll fix it to here, and then this part here, to allow the square block to be at the back, I'm going to have to glue that. So I'm going to have to glue the outside onto the saddle to get the right shape, because this is in the wrong position. Alternatively, I could keep it to the same side, but if I glue it there, it's not going to line up with the saddle anyway, and the flat square block is at the front, whereas it should be at the rear. So straight off, we've got an issue. So the first step is to make this center saddle. So what we need to do is we need to roll this part here. So I'll use a smaller diameter piece of brass rod than the actual curve. And that will give me a tight curve, which I can then manipulate into the round curve here. And it won't have the same springiness if I was to try and roll it to the correct diameter initially. I'm blocking your view, but I need to see what I'm doing. So that's pretty good there. So what I'll do is I'll just put some glue in the edge there. And again, we'll just use white PVA woodworker's glue. Okay, so let's see if you can see that. But it's been done pretty well. I'll just give it a bit of a squeeze just to close any gaps. Okay, so then what we'll do is we'll put the other end in. So what I'll do, again, I'll just put a bead of glue there and drop it on. I'll have to go against the camera so I can see where I'm going. A wee bit of a twist in it, which I need to fix because it needs to be square. Okay, so that's that. That's the saddle done. So the next step now is to do the two sides. Okay, so here's the frame sides. So as you can see, or hopefully you can see, it's got the outline of where the inner part sits. So what I'll do, I'll just apply glue onto this part, and I'll be a bit liberal because it's on the inside and this will all be hidden anyway. Let me just line it up with the marks. Give it a press down. That's that one down. And this is the right hand side. So this is the one that's got the correct reference for the saddle. And then this one here, I'm going to have to glue the wrong way around for this rear block here. And also, if I did it the correct way around, this line's going to be out of position anyway. So I'd rather have the correct block at the back edge where it's supposed to be. Okay. If we put these together, they should line up. More or less there, yeah. So the next stage now is to glue the saddle to the right hand side, because that's the one with the correct position. So there's two dots here, that's the front, so we need to make sure we put it on the correct way around. Rather than hand manipulate this part and try and get glue in it, I'll just put glue in here. It doesn't matter because you can't see this section, inside section anyway. So we can actually just glue this and push the glue up to the edges. Doesn't matter. And then using the front as a reference point and the bottom edge. So it's lined up with the front and it's lined up with the bottom edge. So that should be correct position there. I'll just give a wee press. I'll just a wee bit of an inner curve here, but that's okay. We'll be able to straighten that once it's glued to the other side. We'll just straighten this one a wee bit. Okay, so that's that one done. Now we need to just glue it to the other side. It's a bit trickier for visual for you guys, but what I'll do is I'll just have to work top down. So you probably won't get to see much. So again, actually I might apply it to here because I have no reference lines in this side. Being a bit liberal, but it's okay because it goes to the inside, which you, like I say, you won't see. So that looks like it went straight in position right away. So I'll just give it a squeeze. And we also want to make sure it's lined up, it's square, so it's a wee bit off so I can push this. I think that's not too bad. Okay, so this is the first carriage done. Oops, it's not too bad. Just a pity about that printing on the left hand side, but it is what it is. It hasn't affected it anyway, so. Okay, so that's the carriage done. And then this is the basis for all other parts that attach to it. So here's the next part we'll attach, and these are top rails that fit onto the chassis sides. We've got a left and a right, different lengths as you can see. So the longer one goes on the right hand side and the shorter one on the left. And I'll just run a bead of glue along the top edge. So that's the right hand side, which is a longer one. Okay. And then I'll just press down with the ruler here because it's got a tendency to rotate about that edge. Because when it fits on one side, I'll just square it up. Sure you can see that. So we do the other one now. I'll just press with the ruler again. Okay, so this is where there's another discrepancy between the parts and the drawings. So as you can see, the left hand side isn't as long as the right. On the drawings, this chassis rail is actually trimmed here, so the right hand side's longer than the left. So they've shown that on the top rails, but as you can see, you've got this leg sticking out, which in the drawing is cut level with the rail. So I'm not sure if I'll cut it off later, but we'll see how the other parts line up. I might come in and just trim that. We'll leave it to this stage until we know for sure that it'll be okay to trim it. Okay, so moving on, the next thing we'll attach here is this front faceplate and this rear plate here. So here's the front faceplate and the rear strengthening plate. Now we need to fold this part up because that's horizontal and that's where the gun swivels on. You can see a couple of little dots here, and these are for brass rod to go through for gears that's behind it. So we'll make them. This one, that's a 0.5 mil because there's a gear above and below, but I'm not going to make a hole there. It's right on the edge and it's a bit, ideally I would have did it before I cut it out. So we'll work on this place first. So what we do is we just mark the centres in that hole with the airbrush needle. And I'm using a block because I'll go in and make a hole to the right diameter using the needle. So that's one. The balsa block just stops the paper being sinking into foam and crushing. So that should be it. And then here's some 0.3 brass. And that's going to go through nice. And that's going to go through. So the next stage is put a fold on here. I'll use this here to kind of crush the fibres a bit. You can almost see it lifting up because of the depression I'm making. And then if I hold that, I should be able to just fold. It should just fold up. And we'll just have it. We don't need to go all the way until we know what the proper angle is. Okay, so that's that done. So the next stage is to glue it onto the front of the gun. So what we'll do is we just apply glue to this front face here. And then we'll just split the difference. So that's not too bad, it's kind of even. The problem we now have is it hangs over the edge. So if I put it on here, okay, so that's the front plate on. For this rear plate, I should actually have put this in first because with the front plate on, it's hanging over the front and this needs to go flush at the bottom, like back edge. This sits in between the two halves against the bottom. And as we can see, it's too wide and this is too short. So obviously I've got a bit of flare at the back. I might be able to squeeze it, but it's going to be under a bit of tension. So what I might do is, because I'm not making a hole or whatever, I'll just get some paper and there's no other detail on it. I'll just make these custom to suit. Because now I've got the strength in top ribs, which is a fairly thick member. It's kind of now fairly rigid, so I'm not going to be able to squeeze it together much. I'll do them separately. It might fit one or two, but it's not going to fit them all. Okay, so I'll finish gluing all these on, put these back in. I probably won't show this, it's just a simple edge glue on the base, at the ends and flat in between. So you get the idea for that, there's no point showing you all them. So that's all the rear plates and the front plates installed now. So as you can see from the ones without the circles, I had to make 5 new ones to fit the slightly wider gap in the front plates. So that's the major structure kind of made now. The other parts is all the little details like the cylinders. So I'm actually going to stop the video at this point. Really because I've came across a bit of a discrepancy with the cylinders that we made as per the drawings in the parts. So there's something not quite right that I need to have a look at. So with that, the next part will pick up with all the cylinders, and if we're going to have to modify them. Thanks for watching.